And greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. I'm Thom Hartmann. It's a beautiful Friday here in Washington, D.C. A little windy, a little chilly, but the sun is out, which is nice. Lawmaker down in Texas. It begins. We're having the so-called March for Life here in Washington, D.C. It's actually a march for more women dying from coat hanger abortions, but you know, whatever you want to call it. And meanwhile, a Republican lawmaker, State Representative Troy Tinderholt of Texas, has proposed a bill in Texas that would criminalize abortion and says that he wants to make women more responsible. He said, right now, it's real easy to get an abortion. Right now, women don't make it important to be personally responsible because they know they have a backup of, oh, I could just get an abortion. Now, we both know that consenting adults don't always think smartly sometimes, but consenting adults also need to consider the repercussions of a sexual relationship they're going to have, which is a child. His bill would ban abortion at every stage of pregnancy and amend the state's penal code to allow women to be charged with murder for having an abortion at any age or at any point in gestation, rather. And the bill has no exceptions for rape or incest because Tinderholt says, hey, life is life. Well, at least he's consistent, I guess, in his dismissal of women. Jeanne Shaheen introduced the legislation Tuesday to repeal the global gag rule. That's Donald Trump's global gag rule. It's pretty off the wall. By the way, it's Friday. It's Anything Goes Friday. You can call on any topic you want. Feel free. Our number's 202-808-9925. The BBC, what do you think about this? Japanese scientists say cats are as good as dogs at certain memory tests, suggesting they may be just as smart. A study involving 49 domestic cats shows felines can recall memories of pleasant experiences, such as eating a favorite snack. Dogs show this type of recollection, a unique memory of a specific event known as episodic memory. You know, this is something that, you know, we're well aware of with humans, but, you know, they did a whole bunch of studies and they laid it all out. And, gee, could be. I've got a pile of news here. I just want to share a few things with you. And then, you know, as people call in, we'll wander over to Anything Goes Friday here. But the wall President Trump hopes to build along the Mexican border, Ian Millhiser, writing for the Center for American Progress's Think Progress blog. The wall, by Trump's estimate, will cost $10 billion. Now, that's actually probably just concrete costs. It's probably going to cost more like $30 or $40 billion. But in any case, let's say it is $10 billion. With that $10 billion, first of all, that is more than the entire EPA budget. It is enough to build 550 elementary schools, to hire 16,500 elementary school teachers and pay them for a decade. It's enough to send 93,000 students to a public university and pay their annual tuition for 10 years. And even then, Trump would still have an extra $1 billion left over to buy gold-plated toilets and place his name on random government buildings in giant gold letters. And that's just at the $10 billion cost for this stupid wall. I mean, this is just amazing. This was the Bullard Street Journal this is a satire site, right? So this is a satire article. But given that today is the so-called pro-life march here in Washington, D.C., it's worth sharing. It's really interesting. A group of leading female legislators have enacted a new bill that forbids American men from disposing of unused sperm, requiring them to bring any recreational semen to a nearby fertility clinic. According to noted alternative facts specialist Stephanie York, sperm is intended for procreation only and should not be wasted on pleasure. She says any sperm not being used for the purpose of procreation must be immediately donated to a sperm bank. Failure to do so will lead to hefty fines and ultimately incarceration under the new Level the Playing Field bill. In response, leading male medical academics have raised concerns that refraining from masturbation would be hazardous to men's health, increasing their chances of prostate cancer. That's actually true. Dr. David Ambrose hit out at the bill, claiming it put American men in a very difficult position of having to father and immediately surrender a child every time they ejaculate. He claims this will have very negative effects on men's long-term mental health. I'm telling you, if men got pregnant, abortion would be a sacrament. A serious issue that I think is worth, bringing up, pointing out, mentioning is that 4 more journalists have been charged with felonies. This is 6 now. There was, literally, we were watching this from the windows of our studios here. Between 14th and 12th Street on K and L streets on the day of the inauguration, there was a small group. And we literally stood here and watched them run down the street, these guys dressed in all black. And it looked to me like maybe it was a dozen or 2 dozen people. And, they were smashing windows. I'm absolutely not justifying that. That's a bad thing. Is it 10 years in prison, $25,000 fine? Well, you can decide that. But 6 journalists, you'll recall this was live streamed. 6 journalists who were covering it, journalists got kettled down at the end of L Street. The police just kind of forcing them all into a cul-de-sac, into a dead end. And they got arrested along with bystanders and the Black Bloc guys, and they're being charged with a felony riot. This is the most serious charge that you can charge somebody with for this sort of event in Washington, D.C. 10 years in prison, a $25,000 fine. One of these journalists is a friend of mine, and and a colleague of mine, and it just blows my mind. I mean, he's unwilling to come on the program. All of them, they're scared to death. I mean, they're looking at 10 years in prison for reporting on the story. This is a piece over in The Guardian by John Swain. Jack Keller, he writes, a producer for the web documentary series Story of America, said that he was detained for about 36 hours after being kettled by police at 12th and L Streets on Friday morning, and then arrested despite telling officers that he was covering the demonstrations as a journalist. He said, the way we were treated was an absolute travesty, said Keller, whose cell phone had been kept by the authorities. Keller's editor, Annabelle Park. Now, Annabelle Park is the one who started the Coffee Party, the kind of liberal response to the Tea Party. She's based out of New York. I've spoken at her events. They're great people. She said it is a maddening and frustrating situation. These are people who were there observing and documenting. And this is, in fact, a member of the National Lawyers Guild who is accused the Washington, D.C. Metro Police Department of having indiscriminately targeted people. They said these illegal acts are clearly designed to chill the speech of protesters engaging in First Amendment activity. Amazing. Based on the facts and circumstances, we determined that probable cause existed to support the filing of felony riot charges. As in all our cases, said William Miller, a spokesman for the office, as in all our cases, we're willing to consider additional information. Right. Meanwhile, Ellen Brown has a great article, How to Cut Infrastructure Costs in Half. Private equity investment now generates an average return of about 11.8% annually on a 10-year basis, she says. See, this is, Trump's plan is private equity. Let's let the billionaires pay for our infrastructure, and then we'll pay them back. Well, private equity wants a 10.8% return on investment. Actually, an 11.8%, excuse me. So if you take simple interest over the 30 years or so of the loan value, that basically doubles the $1 trillion cost for infrastructure. It's a trillion for the infrastructure, 1.18 trillion for the fees. And Ellen Brown writes, and this is over on counterpunch.org. It's titled How to Cut Infrastructure Costs in Half. She writes, there's a more cost-effective alternative. The conservative state of North Dakota is funding infrastructure through the state-owned Bank of North Dakota at 2% annually. This is not, the 11.8% that the venture capital firms want, or the vulture capital firms. In 2015, the North Dakota legislature established a B&D infrastructure loan program that made $50 million in funds available to communities with small populations. These loans have 2% fixed interest rates and a 30-year term. The proceeds can be used. Now, the proceeds, that's the profit to the bank because the bank is owned by the state. They take the profit and they're building water and treatment plants and sewer and water lines. It's incredible. Straightforward.